The case against Sean Diddy Combs gets darker by the day, and new developments literally happening almost by the hour. Joining me to discuss the latest as of this moment of our recording, Jennifer Coffindaffer, retired FBI special agent. I got to ask you, this case, it has raised so many questions about power, about money, about who was all involved with Diddy. How far do you think this reaches? We heard from a bodyguard just yesterday, a former bodyguard of his that was with him in the '90s, and the first time that I heard politicians being brought into the mix of people that frequented the Diddy parties. How deep does this go? We're getting to Epstein territory. It seems like.
It's deep and it is gonna get into Epstein territory. All you have to do is look at people who have erased their Twitter pages concerning Diddy, that are coming in by the droves, and then in addition to that, just the photographic evidence that exists. And of course, that isn't doesn't mean somebody's guilty absolutely by their association with them. I mean, look at the list of celebrities that have been photographed with Diddy. Um, but I think it's certainly going to be far-reaching, and I think we've just scratched the surface.
And that's, I think, what makes this interesting is at the beginning we're like, okay, this is more celebrity, this is more music industry. Epstein was very much, politics. It was world leaders. It was things of that nature. Are we going to get that deep
Right.
in some of this with Did? I mean, and with that being said, if we do start going down that road, and it's more than just this celebrity over here, this rapper over here, this whatever. If we're starting to get into the territory of political figures and such, it can take a much darker turn, I think. And there's a lot of people who have a very large vested interest and power to prevent some of that information from getting out, like we saw in the Epstein case.
Now turn right onto North. Right. I mean, when you look at this, he was given the key to the city
Hmm.
of New York City. And of course, that was a political move and a political gesture. And he definitely was hobnobbing with political individuals. And I think the only reason that that is significant is because these are people in power.
Hmm.
Um, was anybody involved with covering anything up? And again, I'm not saying
Uh-huh.
this definitely happened, but we know in the indictment after reading it, we know that certainly his inner circle was involved, if you believe the indictment, in covering up all these nefarious acts. Was anybody else involved?
That's a question I have. And it's something I've been trying to dig into the past couple of days. And I don't know if there is a correlation here, but I do wonder if there was some things to look the other way in New York specifically. Maybe paying off some specific people to not look deeper into Diddy for all of these years. The question being, how did he get away with this with all the rumors? And there's so many people involved. People talk. People on the inside knew, maybe not quite to the extreme level of his depravity, but enough to know that this is illegal. Um, and the key to the city just given last year by Mayor Eric Adams, and that's obviously a whole other ball of stuff going on right now with him and so many New York City officials. Are we going to see these two issues, these two scandals, are they going to intertwine at some point? We don't know the details of all of the scandals. I know we've been hearing about the Eric Adams, but I there's many other officials who have been charged, indicted, all this stuff. Uh, I am wondering, is this circle part of that in some way, shape, or form?
Well, the commish of New York City, his place was raided
Yeah.
and searched, and so many other New York officials. And if there is any connection between Diddy and what went on in terms of the sex trafficking or any of these other charges, the arson, the
Yeah.
bribery, so forth, they're going to know it because now they have both ends. They have all that information they seize from Diddy and all these other officials. We're going to, let's put it this way. I will be surprised if we don't see entanglement from politicians as
Yeah.
opposed to if we do.
Does the raids on all of these New York City officials, would it have anything to do? Would it be sparked by any of these things that have been going down with Diddy? Would it have anything to do with it, like directly? I mean, because there's a lot of questions here of what kind of involvement may have been going on, and of course, it's all just speculation. Is it just looking the other way, or is it like participating in some of the parties? And there's it's kind of a collateral thing that each side has shit on each other, and we're going to protect each other. And here's the key to the city, Diddy, showing our dedication to that agreement.
Well, what we know is in terms of these probable cause affidavits that would have had to have been written to search these individuals' homes, and it's a large spray of individuals that surrounded Eric Adams,
Yeah,
that had their homes searched and their devices seized. And anytime that happens, any thing you find that is of a criminal nature, even if it had nothing to do with your probable cause to be able to search it, is still completely usable.
hmm
So I believe that even though the nexus for the probable cause related more to Eric Adams and his allegations, I think if anything exists that intertwines him in with Diddy, we're going to find out about.
that's going to be very interesting to see just kind of what is found out there. I am wondering if there is a stronger connection between the two, or other officials than just Diddy getting the key to the city and it being a very bad optic nowadays. It certainly raises a lot of questions. A lot of people going down at the same time. Coincidence or connection? That's I think the question there. Let's
Well,
talk.
it's the
Go ahead.
same office, the same group of prosecutors, the same group of investigators. So I agree with you. Like I said, I will be surprised if there is no nexus found.
Yeah, that's yeah. It just keeps blowing your mind every single day. Let's talk about another piece in the Diddy case. Another lawsuit filed this week. This one was Thalia Graves. She claims that back in 2001, Diddy and his then bodyguard Joseph Sherman drugged and assaulted her, sexually assaulted her, and filmed it, which and then distributed it. That's the other part that really gets me about this whole damn thing is this is a non-consensual thing. You're filming it and then you're showing your friends this and distributing it as porn. What is going through one's mind? I mean, he must have been at some level of just thinking he has such power that one could film a rape and share it with others and others are going to be like, "Oh, okay, that's great." You would think that if you're engaged in this sort of activity, you're not wanting to put it on camera.
Right. But there was nothing that Diddy thought he wasn't going to be able to get away with. I
Yeah,
mean, this goes clear back to 2008 that they have documented, and I would argue that it's much prior to that, which is exactly what we're seeing here.
yeah,
And I think we're going to see more photographic evidence, more video evidence. They are going to come out of the woodwork now because they're emboldened. I think before they were afraid. It's anytime, we always would say this, anytime you got a drug kingpin or an organized crime kingpin in prison, you take their power away
mhm,
and you put people in a situation that they are now more comfortable to come forward. They're not afraid anymore.
mhm.
And I think that's what we're going to see here.
That former bodyguard that we talked about earlier, that mentioned that there was politicians involved in some of this stuff, also suggested that they need to take a closer look at the death of Kim Porter, his former girlfriend and mother of several of his children who died. I believe it was 2017 of lobar pneumonia. She was cremated. There's no body to pull up anymore to do any sort of testing on. When you looked at the odds, we looked at the odds of someone dying, if assuming she was in a healthy condition, and we don't know for sure, but from all understanding, she was until she contracted the pneumonia, 3% chance of death. for someone about the age of 47, assuming she was in good health. Those aren't the greatest odds. But she died. She allegedly, she knew a lot about Diddy. If anybody who was around Diddy, Cassie Ventura, others, then you were with him in that sort of capacity, you probably had a pretty good idea of what his lifestyle was like. And he probably had a vested interest in others not finding out about what his lifestyle was like if somebody wanted to go talk about it publicly. Or maybe want full custody of the kids, saying this is not a good place for them to grow up. All speculation. Um, how and do you think they should take a closer look at her death? But how do you, at this point, get any sort of evidence when there is no body to re-examine or do a new autopsy on?
Well, there is a new book out, and according to that author, there's photographic evidence of her being beaten.
Hmm.
In other words, the results of being beaten by Diddy.
Hmm.
There's other information that is in some sort of memoir. But I also saw, Tony, very interestingly, a lot of people saying this is just unfair. It's unfair to the family. It's unfair to the children to dredge all of this up when it was determined that she died as a result of natural causes, if you will.
Hmm.
So it's such a, there's just so many victims in this.
Yeah, I
Every time you look.
think I lost you, Jen. Can you hear me? I cannot hear you. I don't know if you can hear me. You're gone. Let's see if you come back.
Did I lose you, Tony?
Yes, you popped off, but there you are. The last thing you were saying was there's just so many victims in this. If you're going to pick it up from there,
Okay, there's so many victims in this. Every day, as you mentioned, almost every.
I lost you again. Can you hear me? I can't hear
Come
you. Oh,
forward.
there you are. For a second, you were.
Gosh, I don't know when it's doing that. But where does it end,
Hey,
Tony? In
you
other words,
you cut
am I
out
still fading?
completely there for another
You know
while.
what I'm gonna do? I'm
What?
gonna go inside because we're at the house now, our
Okay.
Warren 20 house, and see if I can pick up on the Wi-Fi
Okay.
inside.
Okay.
I mean, I'm looking at our neighbor's house. They've lost their shingles. They've lost
Oh gosh.
everything. It
How are
looks
you?
really bad. Are you still there?
I am here.
Do you have the key, TC? Thanks. Yeah, I mean, we look not too bad.
That's good.
I don't know if there's any shingles off. We have a new roof, so I doubt it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me see if I can get in on the Wi-Fi here
Okay.
and see if this will be better. How's that?
Still sound good?
Yeah, you sound good. The other thing is, I want to hook up to my charger
Okay.
so I don't lose you that way. And I
Sure. No,
apologize
we're all good.
for.
We can just edit this.
Oh gosh. Well, we have some damage outside, that's for sure. That's okay. It's nothing that can't be fixed. All right. Let me just grab my. Did you see some of those pictures? People absolutely got pummeled,
Yeah,
Tony.
I was watching it this morning.
It's bad. You got to look on my feed. I put a parody on
Oh,
there. It's
okay.
hilarious. A weatherman talking about how his ex-wife's name is Helene, and what the damage that his ex-wife, just like this storm. And I mean, he's hilarious.
I
It's
gotta
it's a
watch that.
parody. Oh, it's so funny. And how hopefully the storm will throw all the illegal Mexicans that Kamala left in or whatever. I mean, it's to me, it's not about politics.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just
It's just the funny.
hilarious.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe he'll back. That might be the quickest way for to get them exported or something. It was just so funny. Um Still looking. Let's see. Where's this cord? Hmm. haven't been to the house for 2 weeks, and mm, fuss with Mhm. Tony.
Yeah, I'm
You
here.
got me.
Yep, I
Okay,
can hear you.
good.
Okay.
So I'm thinking that we can carry on here. I'll look for the cord while I still have
Okay.
charge.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Pick up from. There's so many people involved.
Okay. There's so many victims involved in this, Tony. As you mentioned, every day, every hour, new people are coming forward, and their claims are legitimate when you match them up against the indictment. In other words, they're the same sort of activity of sexual assault, of now even filming. And if we, meaning if the federal authorities get more and more actual video and photographic evidence, this case is just it's just becoming such a slam dunk.
Yeah, it's just getting more and more shocking by the day. It's one of those things right now too, where someone could say almost anything about Diddy, and if it's dark, it's believable. And I'm wondering if the Kim Porter case is one of those where it's just kind of it's a dark story, it's a sad story, but everything seems to be up for grabs and for reevaluation of what happened around Diddy over the last 30 years. That I think it's a fair question to ask. Is there something else going on here? Yes, I hate the idea of having to drudge this stuff up again, and the family to hear this, but there's just so much darkness around Diddy, and that might just be a really sad, disturbing reality for some of these kids to understand if it does come to be that maybe Diddy did have something to do with her death. Just conjecture, but he obviously had a lot to do with a lot of other horrible things that you wouldn't want to think your dad was involved in. I don't think anything is off the table here right now.
I don't think anything is off the table. Unfortunately, though, her body is not available to be exhumed to
Yeah,
look and see if there was anything that was taken, if there were any sort of sedating, materials that could have kept her on her back that
yeah,
could have attributed to pneumonia.
yeah.
We don't know. I don't know if they'll ever be able to prove uh, that he was involved in any way. But geez, with everything happening, I think the sad thing is we're all saying we wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
Makes some sense.
I mean, the only thing I can think of on this would be some sort of a digital footprint, if it can even be found at this point, looking back at emails, texts, anything that they can find of his communication about her at that moment in time. Um, eh, Lobar pneumonia, I mean, pneumonia of any type, if left untreated, can kill you. Or if you don't treat it properly and the person thinks they are being treated properly, can kill you. Uh, that's kind of what I'm wondering about with this case. I fully believe she developed it. There are other things that can present that way through poisoning, but if she did have this, did he see that as a way out for her, a way where he doesn't have to kill her technically directly, but if the treatments that, and this is just pure speculation, if she wasn't being treated properly or wasn't given the medications that she thought she was being given, that can kill somebody, and it's natural causes as well. If there's, you don't have to even use poison; you can just let them die from the actual pneumonia itself. Diddy's a tricky individual, and he will go to any lengths, it seems, to protect what he wants and to get what he wants. That's one of the things I'm speculating on right now with the death of Kim Porter.
Yeah, the problem is it's just too much death and destruction around him.
Mhm.
And so it makes it seems like something that could have not been nefarious is now nefarious.
True.
It's certainly believable, right? I mean, normally you would never guess that a husband could be involved in this, but now you're looking at it, you're saying, yeah, but it's Diddy.
Yeah. I'm sure if given the opportunity, he certainly would not want to have the Cassie information come out either, or any of the other lawsuits that he settled about his horrible behavior over the years. And he settled those in court. I'm just wondering if Kim Porter had too much information and too much for him to lose, that it just couldn't be settled in court. It couldn't be a civil agreement of I'm going to give you this money and you're going to shut up. There's kids involved here. That's not something you can just settle civilly.
Well, yes, and even if you settle civil or civilly like Cassie Ventura did, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
She's still going to be have to testify regarding the criminal nature of the allegations.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't stand up against a subpoena
Mhm.
in the federal court. And she's already, I believe, of course, we know this from what we saw in the affidavit,
Mhm.
she's already come forward
Yeah.
and had to say everything. So there's no protections, I guess I
Mhm.
should say, from that a civil lawsuit gives you when the federal government gets involved.
I'm going to guess other bodyguards, like the one that we're talking about earlier. I'm going to guess those went in front of the grand jury or were talked to investigators. Wouldn't they have to have, considering how far back they're looking at this case? And if he's saying publicly, look, there were politicians involved and all these people were involved, those, I mean, that right there, there's so many people who can sing, who can tell and say, yeah, here's who was here. Um, I'm sure everybody like this must be talking to investigators. Would they not at this point when investigators want to talk to everybody who are as close to him like a bodyguard?
Absolutely. If you look at this, they've discussed 50 individuals. I believe that is growing by the day in terms of their investigation, who they're talking to. And there's going to be people that are talking to them that want to come forward with
Mhm.
this information and people who don't,
Yeah.
but they're going to be compelled and they're going to have to come forward. So slice it any way you want to. Um, Everyone and anyone around Diddy with information is going to have to come clean with the federal investigation, and it's just going to get uglier and uglier.
It's going to take down more people than I think almost any scandal, I think, in recent memory, maybe even bigger than Epstein at this point as it gets darker. Hey, thanks for checking out the video. Be sure to follow us wherever you download podcasts, and especially Apple Podcasts, where you can get advanced episode and premium content on our premium channel right there. Also, be sure to follow us on social media so you don't miss any breaking updates on the stories that matter to you most. We're on TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook. Just search Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Brueski, and you'll find us right there. Again, thanks for watching.